Event Horizon, the black hole apocalypse. The warning klaxons blared through the corridors of Outpost Epsilon 9, their shrill cry cutting through the panicked shouts of colonists. Captain Darius Drayke stood at the viewport, his weathered face illuminated by the eerie glow of distorted starlight. The fabric of space itself seemed to be folding inward, stars stretching into impossible streaks as the rogue black hole generator continued its devastating work. "How many outposts remain in the Cygnus cluster?" Drayke asked, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding him. Lieutenant Commander Voss consulted her datapad. 7, sir. Approximately 15,000 colonists. Drayke nodded grimly. "And how long until total collapse?" Dr. Reid estimates 72 hours before the spatial integrity of the entire cluster fails. The captain's jaw tightened. He'd seen too many good people die in the outer colonies. Not again, not on his watch. "Prepare the Valkyrie for immediate departure," he ordered. "We're going to evacuate every last soul." The Valkyrie cut through the distorted spacetime like a blade, its reinforced hull groaning under the strain of navigating the increasingly unstable region. In the ship's quantum lab, Dr. Morgan Reid hunched over holographic displays showing the progression of the spatial collapse. "The generator's creating a cascade effect," she explained, brushing a strand of silver-streaked hair from her face. "Each singularity is triggering micro-ruptures in the fabric of space, which then expand exponentially." Captain Drayke studied the simulation with narrowed eyes. "Can it be stopped?" "Theoretically, yes. Practically," Morgan shook her head. "We'd need to gain control of the generator itself and reverse the polarity of the quantum field, but the generator vessel is heavily guarded by whoever deployed it." "The hegemony," Drayke muttered. The interstellar conglomerate had been pressuring the independent colonies for years. This attack was brutal even by their standards. The ship lurched suddenly, throwing them against the lab wall. Drake's comm unit crackled to life. "Captain," pilot Elise Park's voice was tense but controlled. "We've got spatial fractures forming directly ahead. I need new coordinates now." "Route us to Outpost Helios," Drayke commanded. "We'll start evacuations there." As the Valkyrie altered course, Drayke turned to Morgan. "Find me a way to stop that generator, whatever it takes." The quantum physicist nodded, determination hardening her features. "I'll need to get aboard that vessel." "Then that's exactly what we'll do," Drayke replied, his mind already formulating a plan that would either save the cluster or doom them all. Outpost Helios was in chaos when they arrived. The colony's artificial gravity had begun to fail as spacetime warped around them, causing objects to float randomly or crash to the ground with crushing force. "We have 30 minutes before structural integrity fails completely," Morgan warned as they herded terrified colonists onto the Valkyrie. Elise's voice came through on the comm. "Captain, long-range scanners have detected the generator vessel. It's on the edge of the Taurus Nebula, approximately 6 hours from our position." Drayke made his decision instantly. "Lieutenant Voss, continue evacuation operations with our support vessels. The Valkyrie will pursue the generator." "Sir," Voss protested, "the Valkyrie is the only ship with enough capacity to evacuate Helios completely. And if we don't stop that generator, there won't be anywhere safe to evacuate to," Drayke countered. "The entire cluster will collapse." The journey to the generator vessel pushed the Valkyrie and its crew to their limits. Spatial anomalies tore at the ship's shields, while gravitational eddies threatened to pull them off course. In the cockpit, Elise's hands danced across the controls, her face a mask of concentration as she navigated the increasingly treacherous spacetime. "How did you become such an exceptional pilot?" Drayke asked during a rare moment of relative calm. Elise's lips quirked in a half-smile. "When you grow up on a mining station in the asteroid belt, you learn to navigate tight spaces or you don't survive long." Their conversation was cut short as the generator vessel appeared on their view screen, a massive, dark structure, surrounded by a distortion field that bent light around it. "They've detected us," Morgan reported from the sensor station. "Defense systems activating." Drayke leaned forward. "Elise, get us close enough to board. Morgan, prepare your team. We're taking that generator." The boarding operation was brutal and swift. Drayke led the assault team himself, cutting through the hegemon's security forces with precision and determination. Morgan followed, protected by the assault team as she analyzed the ship's layout, searching for the generator's control center. "This way," she directed, following the readings on her quantum scanner. "The energy signature is strongest through that bulkhead." They fought their way to the central chamber, where the black hole generator pulsed with dark energy. It was smaller than Drayke had imagined, a spherical device no larger than a shuttle craft, but radiating power that made the air itself feel heavy. "Can you shut it down?" Drayke asked, as his team secured the perimeter. Morgan was already interfacing with the control systems. "It's more complicated than I thought. The process has gone too far. The singularities are self-sustaining now. I can reprogram the generator to create a controlled implosion," she said, fingers flying across the interface. "But it would need to be precisely positioned in an uninhabited region, and we'd need to be far away when it happens." Drake's comm unit crackled. "Captain," Elise's voice was urgent. "Hegemony reinforcements are approaching. We need to move now." "How long to reprogram the generator?" Drayke demanded. 20 minutes, Morgan replied. "Maybe less." "Do it, we'll hold them off." The next 20 minutes were a blur of laser fire and explosions as Drake's team defended the chamber. 3 of his people fell before Morgan finally looked up from the controls. "It's done," she announced. "But there's a problem. The generator can't be set on a timer. Someone has to manually activate the final sequence." Drayke absorbed this information with a grim nod. "Get back to the Valkyrie. I'll handle the activation." Captain Morgan began to protest. "That's an order, Doctor. This cluster needs your brilliance more than it needs an old soldier." Back aboard the Valkyrie, Morgan relayed the captain's plan to Elise. "He's going to pilot the generator vessel into the Carina Nebula and trigger the implosion," she explained, her voice tight with emotion. "The resulting controlled singularity should absorb the cascade effect from the others." Elise's hands tightened on the ship's controls. "There has to be another way." "There isn't, and we're running out of time." For a long moment, Elise was silent, staring at the generator vessel on the view screen. Then she stood abruptly. "Take the helm," she ordered the co-pilot, "and get Dr. Reid to safety." "What are you doing?" Morgan demanded as Elise headed for the launch bay. "Something stupid," Elise replied with a grim smile. "Tell the captain I'm sorry for disobeying orders." Before anyone could stop her, Elise had launched in the Valkyrie's fastest shuttle, racing toward the generator vessel. She opened a comm channel. "Captain Drayke, this is Pilot Park. Prepare for emergency extraction." "Elise, what the hell are you doing?" Drake's voice was sharp with anger and concern. "Saving your life, sir. The cluster needs leaders like you for the rebuilding." Her shuttle docked with the generator vessel with a metallic clang. "I'll take it from here." Despite his protests, Drayke had no choice but to evacuate to Elise's shuttle as she transferred to the generator vessel. As he pulled away, her voice came through the comm one last time. "It's been an honor serving with you, Captain. Now get our people home." The Valkyrie and its support vessels watched from a safe distance as Elise piloted the generator vessel into the heart of the uninhabited nebula. The ship's engines flared brilliantly as she pushed it to maximum velocity, diving deep into the swirling gases. "She's activated the sequence," Morgan reported softly, watching the readings on her console. "The implosion has begun." A blinding flash erupted from the nebula, followed by an eerie darkness that seemed to bend the very light around it. The cascade of failing spacetime throughout the cluster began to reverse, the micro-ruptures healing as the controlled singularity drew in the chaotic energy. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, Captain Drake stood in silence, watching as the stars stabilized. The cost had been terrible, but the human colonies would survive. "Set course for Outpost Helios," he ordered finally. "We have people waiting for us." As the Valkyrie turned away from the nebula, a single quantum transmission reached them, the briefest pulse of data, but unmistakably bearing Elise's signature code. Morgan stared at her console in disbelief. "Captain, I'm detecting. It's impossible, but—" Drake moved to her side, hope kindling in his eyes for the first time in days. "Nothing's impossible, Doctor," he said quietly, "especially not for Elise Park." The Valkyrie's engines flared as it accelerated toward the coordinates embedded in the transmission, toward the possibility of a rescue and the promise of a future for the star clusters that humanity called home. Thank you for listening.